The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. My clock is showing noon, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got just 30 quick minutes to go over quite a bit, so I'm very excited to be here chatting with you today. Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2020 webinar series. Today's presentation is a live Q&A webinar, Is Crowdfunding Right for My Business? My name is Jessica Brower, and I'm with the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'm going to be speaking to you today. So you're going to notice the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. I want to call attention to both that questions panel and the chat box over there. If you have any comments or questions during the webinar today, I'd like you to go ahead and use those to communicate with us. It's just an easier way for us to chat with each other. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. So you can go to youtube.com and type in Wyoming Women's Business Center, and you'll find that there. You can make sure you can subscribe and check out all of our other webinars. And you can visit our website at www.wyomingwomen.org or look for us on Facebook and Instagram. So right after this presentation, there will be a survey that we'll launch. If you could please complete that, it provides us and our funding partners with valuable information so we can keep providing these services to you. So right now, all participants are muted to minimize any background noise. And once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, which hopefully you do, that's why we're here, then please type them in that chat box or questions panel, and we will get to that. Oops. Okay, so we're going to get started with just some quick information about the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and then we're going to dive into our topic today. So the WWBC is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. We do that through 4 distinct programs. The first one is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microfinance programs, which offer microloans and individual development accounts. Third, we have the Artist Development Center that's run in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store and Art Connect Gallery, which is here in downtown Laramie. And lastly, we recently launched our COVID-19 support program, which is what I'm here to talk to you about. So this webinar series is brought to you by our COVID-19 support program, and I want to call special attention to the list of services available to Wyoming business owners when they become WWBC clients. If you'd like more information on this, you can contact our program facilitator, Veronica Donahue, or visit our website at wyomingwomen.org and click on the COVID support tab, and that will get you to all of these free resources. So my name is Jessica Brower. As I said, I'm the outreach counselor for the Wyoming Women Business Center's COVID-19 support program, and I am offering outreach counseling and crowdfunding support. So ideally, before you hopped on this call, you did have a chance to check out a brief introductory video on what is crowdfunding. I'm going to review that briefly before we get into some questions, just in case you haven't seen that yet. But if you want to find that, you can find it on the Facebook event or in the email, probably wherever you found your invitation to this webinar. There was a link to that video as well if you need to take another look at that. So what is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding is the practice of sourcing small contributions from a large number of people to provide funding for a particular project or campaign, usually via the internet. So you're probably familiar with crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe. They're pretty popular and are rising in popularity. So how does it work? Individuals or groups, they create a fundraising campaign that contains a specific funding goal and a timeline to fund that project. And then supporters contribute to the campaign financially and are encouraged to share that campaign with their own community and social network. And that is where the power of crowdfunding comes from. Crowdfunding is a great tool for raising money, but it's an even better tool for connecting to your community, connecting to your crowd, growing your audience, and plugging into that social network. which is often a asset of crowdfunding that is kind of overlooked with this belief that you're just creating a campaign to raise some money. So where do I do it? You could do it lots of places, but I'm here to talk to you about the Local Crowd, which is the organization that we've partnered with for this COVID-19 support program. So the Local Crowd is a online crowdfunding platform, much like any other crowdfunding platform. Their focus is on rural communities and small businesses, and they have a heavy focus on educating their campaign hosts to create successful campaigns, which we're going to talk a little bit more about here in a moment. So you can take a look at their platform by visiting thelocalcrowd.com. You could see some of the campaigns in action. You could see some resources and just get to know a little bit more about that organization. They are a Wyoming-based startup and very lovely people. So this is what the platform would look like, these campaign cards. So you can see here, they've helped businesses raise money for a variety of things. This is just kind of a small snapshot. But you can see here the power of multiple donors making smaller contributions to help raise a larger sum of money. And if you really think about that crowd and that number, for example, this first one here, 92 donors, that's 92 people who contributed, could have shared that with their friends, with their audience, spreading the word about this organization, this mission, and really just capitalizing both financially and as far as social networks go, using this platform. So who is crowdfunding for? Crowdfunding is for businesses looking to harness the power of their community and to connect to their audience and raise capital for a project, product, or service. So I think we could probably say that we could argue that crowdfunding could be for just about anybody with enough strategic thinking. So why should I consider crowdfunding for my goals? In the face of the current situation with COVID-19 and economic impact, many businesses are shifting their outreach to online platforms to continue their business and to offer their services to their community in some way. Crowdfunding is an innovative and entirely virtual tool that's used for raising capital and building connections. So it's really primed for this time when folks are looking to build connections and continue to support and scale their businesses in some way online. And on top of that, people are ready to show up for the businesses they love. I hesitate to talk about the benefits of a global pandemic. However, I do think that something that I have seen over the course of the last 6 months or so is communities are really looking to the businesses that they love because they miss them, and they're recognizing, hey, I need to lend a hand in order to still have that coffee shop or that little grocery store or that yoga studio that I love. I need to show up and support them. And they are showing up and doing that. The screenshot here is from a community in the New Hampshire area. So you can see here that these are just small businesses that we all could recognize in our own town who are asking for smaller fundraising goals and support from their neighborhood. And people are showing up in a significant way. And I think we're seeing this across the country, probably across the globe. So when am I ready for a successful campaign? I'm not gonna kid anyone here. Building a crowdfunding campaign does take work. And that is precisely why we've built the program the way that we have. We've partnered with a variety of organizations that are all experts in this field in order to make sure that if you want to move forward with creating a crowdfunding campaign, that you have the support to do it and that you have the foundation built to launch and to reach those goals. So the way our process works is you first become a Wyoming Women's Business Center client. If you're not, I can see some of your names in here. I know some of you are already our clients, so I'm happy to see you here. But if you're not, it's a very easy process to do. And we would chat and we would move you through to the Crowdfund Better Rapid Assessment and Roadmap. This is usually a paid service from this organization who are crowdfunding consultants. They've worked with tens of thousands of crowdfunding campaigns, and they really have a formula to know where you need to be at as far as your marketing strategy in order to launch a campaign and be primed for success in reaching people and getting your message out there, whether that's through email, social media, face-to-face meetings, events, that kind of thing. After you move through that rapid assessment with them, we'll have an idea of where you're at and what kind of work you need to do before you're ready to launch a campaign. Or if you're in good shape, then we move on to the next step, which is onboarding you with the local crowd, which is the platform. So with this, you will have free access to hosting your campaign on there. Those fees are covered by the WWBC's grant, and also the educational cohort for successful campaign building. And this is what I was referencing when I said the local crowd really focuses on educating their clients in effective campaign creation. There is a common belief in crowdfunding that you post your campaign on the internet and magic money kind of falls from the internet land and funds your campaign. And unfortunately, though that would be awesome, that's not quite how it works. So it does require strategy and marketing outreach and a plan, which is precisely why they have this educational cohort. So how do I take advantage of this? Just like I said, first off, you become a WBC client to receive these free services. You'll schedule an initial call with one of our counselors and get a coupon code to that crowdfund rapid assessment with the consultants with Crowdfund Better. Next, you'd complete that assessment with them, and we would receive your report and determine where you're at and if you're ready to launch a campaign. And then last, you join a cohort and start to build your campaign. You'd be working alongside me as a counselor with WWBC, as well as a success coach from the local crowd through an educational series where you build out your campaign and then you launch. So our first cohort starts September 9th. That is a Wednesday. And how this is going to be set up is we will all get together for a webinar, just an introductory webinar where the program is introduced. And then from there, you will have self-guided homework assignments to build out your campaign. That includes tutorial videos and worksheets and resources that can help support you. And then there'll be weekly opportunities to hop into Zoom calls and connect with me or the local crowd staff to navigate any questions you may have or to connect with each other, which can be really valuable just to see what your fellow campaign hosts are doing. You can see a little bit more about this program that we're offering here on the website. Here's just a screenshot from the COVID-19 support page. That marketing outreach and crowdfunding right there in the middle is where you would find out a little bit more and where you could move through that process of becoming a client if you're not one yet. So that was a lot of information really fast, but I wanted to leave some significant time for questions. So while you spend some time thinking about your questions, I'm going to give you a little bit more information just about some of our funding partners. So you can see, one second. Sorry, guys. Okay, so you can go to the webinar panel and find the questions panel there and type your questions, and then I'll give you some more information on this. So the Wyoming Women's Business Center is made possible through several partnership agencies. Our primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. And the WWBC is incredibly thankful for the support and guidance of its partners and looks forward to the work ahead. We have a lot of awesome upcoming webinars. I'm very excited about them. So if you enjoyed these webinars, you can keep up with these on our website to register under upcoming events. So now I'm going to flip back here to this questions slide and we can jump into any questions you have. Once again, you can put those in that chat section or the questions section and we'll start addressing those. Okay, so how many times does the cohort meet? Weekly, what is the time commitment? So the The cohort can, just like I said, the cohort can meet once a week if you like. There's 6 weeks of educational content. So that means you could meet once a week for 6 weeks. That does not mean you have to do that. You would have the opportunity to kind of buzz through what you're working on without checking in if you were feeling really confident about it. Or, you're not obligated to show up. As far as what the time commitment is, the local crowd says that they suggest that people spend about 20 minutes a day in the campaign building process. So if you're already running a business and you're already marketing your business, you're probably already doing this kind of work already. So it can sound kind of daunting to say 20 minutes a day. I don't have that. However, if you think about when you're responding to your comments on Facebook or checking your social media content, that kind of thing, you just kind of build that into your marketing strategy. What is the assessment like? So the rapid assessment with Crowdfund Better, they talk to you a lot about your audience and your marketing, your current marketing. So what does your list look like? Are you on social media? Are you not? Do you have an email list? How many emails do you have? How are you onboarding your clients? Crowdfunding really is about communicating with your audience. And so what they're really trying to get at the heart of is, first off, what are your goals for your campaign and what do you want to raise money for? But also, how are you going to communicate with your audience? If you haven't done some of that foundational work there, then it could mean that maybe you need to spend a couple months just kind of beefing up your social media or email outreach strategy, and then you'd be in much better condition to start a crowdfunding campaign and to start making those asks. And how far along in my business do I need to be in order to be a successful candidate for this program? So this really varies. I think this comes back to the idea of what does your audience look like? You could have a brand new business that is, just a baby business that hasn't really launched yet, but you could have an audience already from other activities that you're doing in your community. Maybe you're volunteering a lot, or you ran another business, or you have connections with folks from other avenues. So that means that I could say you were in good shape to start a campaign. On the flip side, you could also have a well-established business and you could not have any email addresses or a Facebook or a website, in which case I would say, maybe you need to spend some time building that list out. Can you give me an example of a campaign? I want to sell my products, but I'm not sure how to frame that into a crowdfunding campaign. Yes, so there's a variety of ways that you can do crowdfunding campaigns. I'm just gonna come back here to this screenshot. I don't know that there actually is a product one on here, but so an example of a campaign would be, one I'm thinking of right now was there was a gentleman who developed a style of sandal, and he wanted to sell these sandals. However, he wanted to raise the capital for buying the materials to produce these sandals. So he set up his campaign by pre-selling his product. So you would get to go to a campaign and you could pick, what sandal style you wanted. You could customize the colors and all of that. And then you essentially were pre-ordering that product, which gave him the capital to order the materials, and then he could launch the campaign, build the sandals, and you would get the product later. So if you've ever seen any of the kind of like wildly successful crowdfunding campaigns, then you've probably seen products like this. It's really common with technology or in the gaming industry. People will want to create something, and then they use crowdfunding to pre-sell and kind of market test what people want. So another example that you can kind of see in the screenshot here is the idea of raising capital for a program or to build an infrastructure for something. So in New Hampshire, there's a lot of agriculture-based businesses, so that's why you're seeing a lot of this farming. So maybe you have a coffee shop and you want to expand your business to start selling ice cream, but you really need a the refrigeration, freezing equipment in order to do that. So you could raise money for that equipment by pre-selling gift cards for your ice cream or any kind of thing that you're selling in your store, bags of coffee, and kind of merchandise, that kind of thing. And then that raises money for the equipment. Okay, I need help building an email list. Are you able to help with this? So this is definitely something that we can chat about in the outreach counseling. So I do think that that is something that the Crowdfund Better folks, they would talk to you about. I know they provide some resources and some ideas for creating an email list, and then that's something that I would work with you on one-on-one in outreach counseling. So it is something we could definitely help you build some systems for.
Hi, Jessica. This is Veronica. I
Yeah.
just had a question. If a client is not ready for the first cohort in September, how many opportunities will they have later in the year or in 2021?
Yeah, so there will be four cohorts total. And so if you're not able to slip into this first one, that is not an issue by any means. I know, I recognize that one is coming up very quickly. So I would say we could get you into one of the ones later in the fall or early next year for sure. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I had another question just out of curiosity. If there was a business owner in Lander, would they be able to market this campaign all over Wyoming, or should they try and focus it in their community?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question because the idea of the crowd in crowdfunding is open to interpretation. So maybe if you're a small business and you're serving your community, like the coffee shop or the local farm, that kind of thing, your crowd is probably going to be your neighborhood. It's going to be where your audience is. However, maybe you're selling a niche item for an industry that means your crowd isn't determined by geography necessarily, but rather by interest. So, like the example of the gentleman selling the sandals, maybe his crowd isn't just people in his town. Maybe it's just people who have a interest in these sandals, which were optimized for kind of like hiking and outdoor recreation. So that would be his crowd. So I would say it really comes down to what your business is, what your goals are, and then trying to determine where your audience is at, which is precisely why there's so much background work where you work with Crowdfund Better and seeing if you're in good shape, and then as you build out the campaign, you can start to determine that. I just saw a question that said, I see a lot of campaigns that have video messages. Is that something that you can help with? So that definitely is something that we can help with. Video is hugely powerful. I think anybody who owns a business now recognizes that video is a great way to capture attention. So in our business to business portion of the COVID support program, you can work with videographers and photographers with a $3,000 grant, which is incredibly awesome and something I'm very excited about. So that would be a way that you could combine our services. So you could say, I want to raise money to sell my product. I really need a good looking video for my campaign page. Well, then we could get you with a local service provider. They could help you build out a video, and then we would use that in helping you launch your campaign.
I also had a few questions, if you don't mind, Jessica.
Yeah.
This is Rebecca. So can you kind of go into the cohort a little bit more and explain more about what exactly that is and how long they usually last?
Yeah, so the cohort, I'm having a terrible time saying that word for some reason. The cohort starts with an introductory webinar or an introductory video chat more than a webinar, really, where everyone would just get to know each other and learn a little bit about the process that you'd be moving through. And then from there would be chunks of homework that would come 1 week at a time, and they would include things like video tutorials and worksheets that would help you identify things like your marketing strategy, who you need to reach out to, setting budgeting goals, that kind of thing. And so you would move through that 1 week at a time with the opportunity to hop into a Zoom call once a week, just to have kind of like a open discussion with anybody who has any questions, along with me and the staff at the local crowd, who would help with just more specific one-on-one questions. And so I'm going to kind of piggyback. There's another question here from Christine that said, I'm interested, but I'm nervous I won't be successful and it will be embarrassing. Can I join a cohort to get more comfortable without committing 100% to do it? And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think step one is getting through that crowdfund rapid assessment. And then that really, I think, will help answer a lot of questions in that insecurity about, am I ready for this or not? Because they really help you identify who are you talking to, who's available as a potential contributor to your campaign, and you'll know pretty quickly whether you need to do some work building that or not. But that said, I think there's nothing wrong with jumping into a cohort and getting comfortable with exploring the campaign building process, even if maybe you have to be in 1 or 2 cohorts in order to get to the place where you're ready to launch your campaign.
Do you have any advice or tips right now for advertising on social media? Especially if you're someone like me and you just feel really bad just asking for money, are there any ways to work around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes back to mindset, honestly. I think by nature, as entrepreneurs, we can be a humble lot, and we don't like to ask for help. It can feel like charity, and that is not what crowdfunding is. And that goes back to that idea of really connecting with your audience and your crowd, and recognizing that you're offering them something of value in order for a capital exchange, which then allows you to scale your business. So I think really spending some time figuring out who your audience is and what you're offering to them and why that is valuable, that can really help in building confidence, in putting a message out there that says, you can contribute and receive this product in order to help me grow this business that it resonates with you, that is important to you. It can feel like charity if you aren't specific enough. I think if you were to say, like, we're just really struggling and we can't pay our employees, then that would be a really less successful way of trying to harness the power of a crowd through a crowdfunding campaign. But when you build a strategic campaign and you're really trying to scale thoughtfully, it becomes very clear that it's an exchange of valuable goods for the greater good of the growth of the business.
Is there any kind of ideal goal size for crowdfunding campaigns? Is there, let's say, if I have a large goal in mind, would you be able to recommend my crowdfunding for $1,000 or $100,000 project? What would you say to them?
Yeah, so I think, again, it depends on how big your audience is. I, generally speaking, would not be able to confidently tell anybody that they could raise $100,000 with a crowdfunding campaign unless they had a significantly large audience that was already engaged in this kind of behavior with their business. I think the smaller goals are the best place to go, especially to get started, and that's where this idea of building your audience and connecting to your community really becomes valuable. Because what could happen is you could do a campaign for $1,000, $2,000, something like that. It's achievable. You're likely to raise the funds and create that social proof that people do like your business. They are supporting what you're doing. They are excited about it. And then you could plan for a bigger goal down the line. I think smaller is better, unless you're in a highly specific set of circumstances or industry. And I think generally speaking, if we're talking about small businesses who are trying to raise capital for improvement projects or to launch a new product, that I would say the smaller the better, especially with the first time around. So it looks like we are at 12:30. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. That went very, very quickly. So when we close the webinar today, there will be a survey that's going to pop up onto your screen. And it's just a quick 5-question survey. And I ask that you stay online for just a moment and complete that for us. We read every survey, and it helps us plan our upcoming calendar and improve our offerings. Thank you so much for attending. I'm going to pull up this contact information again if you want to get in touch with us. Again, you can go to wyomingwomen.org or contact Veronica at veronica.wwbc@gmail.com.